Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Terran Hope and watched the stars through the big window. His hands were shaking as he held the message from the Galactic Council. The words made his heart feel heavy like a stone. "Sir, what do they say?" asked Captain Lisa Stone. She was young but brave. Her ship, the New Horizon, had found 12 new worlds for humans to live on. Now those worlds were the reason for all their trouble. Jake looked at his crew. These were good people. They had families. Back on Earth, they had dreams and hopes. Now everything was about to change. "They want us gone," he said in a quiet voice. "All of us. Every human in the galaxy." The message was clear. The Galactic Council had made their choice. Humans were too dangerous. They grew too fast. They learned too quickly. They could live on worlds that other species could not. This made the Council afraid. On the planet Centauri Prime, Ambassador Helen Carter stood in the Great Hall of the Council. The room was huge and cold. Strange alien beings sat in tall chairs looking down at her. Their eyes showed no kindness. The Zaltharian counselor spoke with a voice like breaking glass. "Humans have broken our laws. You have taken worlds without asking. You have grown too strong too fast. This cannot be allowed." Helen tried to speak, but the counselor raised his crystal hand. "The judgment is made. All humans must leave Council. Space, you have 1 year. Take nothing that belongs to us. Go far away and never come back." Dr. Nathan Brooks was watching from Earth. He was a smart man who studied alien life. He knew this was not really about broken laws. The Council was scared of what humans could do. In just 200 years, humans had spread to 50 worlds. They had made friends with some alien species. They had built cities on planets where nothing should be able to live. "They fear us," Nathan told President Claire Adams over the video call. "We adapt too well. We survive where others die. We make things work when they should not work." President Adams was a strong woman. She had led Earth through hard times before. But this was different. This was the end of everything they had built among the stars. "How many of our people are out there?" she asked. 40 million on the colony worlds. Another 8 billion on Earth. The Council wants all of us gone from their space. The President closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were full of fire. "Then we go. But we go on our own terms." Captain Lisa Stone brought her ship back to Earth with bad news. The Council had already started moving their fleets. Any human ship found in Council space after the deadline would be destroyed. No questions asked. No mercy given. "What about the colonies?" asked her second officer, Lieutenant Ryan Clark. "Some of those people have lived there for 50 years. It is their home now." Lisa felt angry and sad at the same time. Home is where humans are together. If we have to leave, we leave together. Dr. Susan Taylor was working day and night in her lab. She was the best scientist Earth had for making planets ready for human life. "If we are going into unknown space, we need to be ready for anything," she told her team. "Worlds with no air. Worlds with poison rain. Worlds where the sun never shines." Her assistant, Pete Williams, looked worried. "Can we really survive out there?" "The unknown parts of the galaxy are called unknown for a reason. Maybe there is nothing there but empty space and dead rocks." Susan smiled for the first time. "In days, Pete, humans have survived ice ages and asteroid impacts. We have lived in deserts and under the ocean. We will find a way." Admiral Morrison called together all the human fleet commanders. The meeting was held on the space station above Earth. These men and women had spent their lives defending human space. Now they had to plan the biggest move in human history. "The Council thinks they are punishing us," Jake told them. "They think sending us away will make us weak and scared. They are wrong." Admiral Nicole Green spoke up. She was in charge of the defense fleets around the outer colonies. "Sir, some of our people want to fight. They say we should not run away. Jake nodded. He understood that feeling. If we fight now, we lose everything. The Council has thousands of worlds and millions of ships. We have good ships and brave people, but not enough. If we are smart and patient, maybe one day things will be different. The preparations began. Every human world worked together like never before. Factories made new ships. Scientists packed their research. Families said goodbye to the graves of their loved ones. President Adams spoke to all humanity on the last day. Her voice reached every human settlement, every ship, every station. Today we leave the worlds we have known. We go into darkness and uncertainty. But we do not go as refugees or defeated people. We go as explorers. We go as builders. We go as humans who will not be broken by fear or hatred. The great ships gathered at the edge of Council space. Thousands of vessels carrying millions of people and all their hopes. The Terran Hope led the way with Admiral Morrison on the bridge. Behind them, the lights of human worlds grew dim as the last people left. Ahead of them was the great barrier that marked the edge of known space. Beyond that barrier, no Council ship had ever gone. It was called the Unknown Territories. As the fleet moved forward, Jake Morrison spoke to his crew one last time before they crossed into the darkness. They wanted us gone because they feared what we might become. Now let us show them what humans can build when we are truly free. The ships crossed the barrier together. Behind them, the galaxy they had known grew small and distant. Ahead of them, new stars waited in the endless night. The great exile had begun, but so had something else. Something that would change the galaxy forever. 5 years had passed since the great fleet crossed into the unknown territories. The human ships had found a world they called Haven's Rest. It was not a pretty place. The air was full of poison gas and the ground was covered in sharp rocks. But it was theirs. Chief Engineer Pete Williams wiped sweat from his face as he watched the big machines work. For months, his team had been changing the poisonous air into something humans could breathe. It was hard work and dangerous, but it was working. How much longer? Asked Dr. Susan Taylor. She had designed the machines that were cleaning the air. Every day she came to check on the progress. Pete looked at his readings. 3 more months and we can walk outside without masks. 6 months and we can grow food in the soil, he smiled. This world will be green and beautiful one day. Colony Administrator Kevin Davis was busy making plans for the first real city on Haven's Rest. They called it New Terra. It would have homes for 1 million people, schools for children, and labs for scientists. It would prove that humans could build anywhere, but humans were not alone in the unknown territories. Captain Ryan Clark was leading a scouting mission when his ship picked up strange signals. They were not natural sounds from space. Someone was talking, but not in any human language. "Sir, there's a ship coming toward us," said his communications officer. "It's big and it's moving fast." Ryan felt his heart beat faster. "Are they friendly?" "I don't know, sir. They're not shooting at us yet." The alien ship was dark and covered in spikes. It looked like it was built for war. When it got close, a rough voice spoke in broken English. "Human ship. You are in Kethver space. Stake your purpose or be destroyed." Ryan took a deep breath. This was the moment that would decide if humans made friends or enemies in their new home. "This is Captain Ryan Clark of the human ship Pathfinder. We come in peace. We seek only to find a home for our people." There was a long silence. Then the voice spoke again. "You are not Council?" "No, the Council threw us out. We are exiles like you might be." Another long pause. "Follow us. Do not try to run or we will destroy you." The Kethver ship led them to a hidden base inside a dead moon. When Ryan and his team met the aliens face to face, they were surprised. The Kethver looked like giant wolves that walked on 2 legs. They had thick fur and sharp teeth, but their eyes showed intelligence. General Rick Johnson had come to Havens Rest to meet with the Kethver leader. War Chief Gurthek was bigger than the other Kethver. His fur was gray with age, and his hands bore many scars from old battles. "You humans are young," Gurthek said in his deep voice. "But you have already made the Council angry. This is good." "The Council fears what they cannot control." Rick leaned forward. "How long have your people been out here?" 300 years. We refused to give up our warrior ways. The Council said we were too violent. They made us leave or face destruction." Gurthek showed his teeth in what might have been a smile. "We chose to leave. We chose to survive." Dr. Amy Foster was studying rock samples when she made a discovery. That changed everything. Deep in the caves of Havens Rest, she found crystals that glowed with strange light. When she tested them, she could hardly believe the results. "These crystals store energy like nothing we've ever seen," she told the science team. "One small piece could power a city for a year." The Council said these quantum crystals were just stories, but they're real, and they're everywhere out here. Matt Rodriguez was in charge of the mining operation. He had worked in mines on Earth and Mars, but this was different. The quantum crystals were easy to find, but hard to extract. They had to be removed very carefully, or they would explode. "We're going to be rich," said one of his workers. Matt shook his head. "We're going to be powerful. There's a difference." More alien ships started coming to Havens Rest. Word was spreading through the unknown territories that humans were different from the Council species. They didn't come as conquerors. They came as neighbors. The Zephyrian Collective sent a small ship. First, the Zephyrians looked like tall, thin humans with blue skin and silver hair. Their leader, Counselor Xenia, spoke in a musical voice. "We heard humans believe in democracy," she said to Kevin Davis. "Is this true?" Kevin nodded. "Every human gets to vote for their leaders. Every voice matters." Xenia's eyes filled with tears of joy. "We believed in this too." The Council said democracy was chaos. They made us choose between giving up our elections or leaving forever. You chose to leave? We chose to be free. Captain Lisa Stone brought news from the edge of unknown space. Her ship New Horizon had found more exiled species. The Korthek Merchant Union had been thrown out for refusing to pay high taxes to the Council. The mindful ones had been exiled for sharing their technology with younger species. "There are dozens of them," Lisa reported to Admiral Morrison, "maybe hundreds. All thrown out by the Council for different reasons. But they all have one thing in common: they wouldn't bow down." Admiral Morrison felt something growing in his chest. It was hope mixed with determination. "Contact them all. Tell them humans want to talk. Tell them we're stronger together than apart." Dr. Nathan Brooks was working on something special. He was learning the languages of all the exiled species. Communication was the key to building trust. "The Kethver word for friend is Paktar," he explained to the other humans. "But it's more than friend. It means someone who will fight beside you, someone who will die for you if needed." Pete Williams had finished cleaning the air of Havens Rest. Now families could walk outside, and children could play in the growing gardens. The poison world was becoming a paradise, but the real paradise was something bigger. It was the idea that different species could work together, that exiles could become allies, that the unwanted could become unstoppable. Admiral Morrison stood on the observation deck of New Terra City and watched ships from 6 different species working together in space. They were building something the galaxy had never seen before. "What do we call it?" asked President Adams over the video link from Earth's government in exile. Morrison smiled. "We call it the Free People's Alliance. And this is just the beginning." 30 years had passed since humans first arrived in the unknown territories. The small settlement on Havens Rest had grown into something amazing. New Terra was now a beautiful world with green forests and blue oceans. Cities filled with beings from 17 different species covered the planet. President Danny Turner stood before the Great Hall on New Washington. A world that humans had built from nothing, today was special. Today, the Free People's Alliance would become official. Representatives from all the exiled species had come. War Chief Gurthak of the Kethver sat next to Counselor Xenia of the Zephyrians. The crystal beings of the Luminar Collective sparkled in the light beside the plant-like Verdani Council. All of them had been thrown out by the Galactic Council. All of them had found a new home here. We gather today not as refugees, Danny said to the crowd. We gather as free peoples who choose to stand together. The Council threw us away like garbage, but we have built something they could never imagine. The Alliance Charter was a simple document. It promised that all species would be treated fairly. It said that no one would be forced to change their ways. It promised to defend each other from enemies. Most important, it promised that freedom would always come first. Admiral Nicole Green watched from her ship high above the planet. She was in charge of the Alliance Defense Fleet. Her ships were different from anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human technology mixed with Kethver weapons, Zephyrian shields, and Korthek trade ships created something new and powerful. The fleet had grown large. 5,000 ships of all sizes. Fast scouts that could hide from anything. Heavy cruisers that could fight 10 council ships at once. And the pride of the fleet, Admiral Green's flagship, Liberty's Dawn. A massive ship built with quantum crystal technology that could jump across the galaxy in seconds. Engineer Carlos Martinez had made that possible. He was the one who figured out how to use the quantum crystals for space travel. The Council had always said faster-than-light travel was impossible without their special gates. Carlos proved them wrong. Distance means nothing now, Carlos explained to the Alliance leaders. We can be anywhere in the galaxy in minutes. They can't track us. They can't catch us. We appear, we strike, we disappear. The first real test came. Sooner than anyone expected. Council Enforcer Fleet Omega-7 crossed into Alliance space without warning. 50 massive warships led by the dreadnought Divine Authority. They demanded that all illegal settlements surrender immediately or be destroyed. Fleet. Admiral Tony Baker was ready for them. His ships had been waiting at the edge of Alliance space, hidden in the Crimson Nebula. When the Council fleet arrived, they found what looked like a small group of refugee ships. "Attention, illegal settlements," broadcast the Council commander. "You have violated galactic law by existing without permission. Surrender now or face destruction." Tony smiled from his bridge. "All Alliance ships. This is Admiral Baker. Operation Freedom Dance is now active." Suddenly, the space around the Council fleet filled with Alliance ships. They appeared from nowhere, surrounding the enemy on all sides. The Council ships tried to turn and fight, but they were too slow and too predictable. The battle lasted only 20 minutes. The Alliance ships moved like dancers, appearing and disappearing, striking and vanishing. The Council fleet was built for fighting enemies who stood still and traded shots. They had no idea how to fight an enemy that could be everywhere and nowhere at once. When the smoke cleared, every Council ship was destroyed or captured. Not a single Alliance vessel was lost. Dr. Rachel Stone was building something that would change everything. On the world of New Cambridge, she had created the Alliance Research Institute. The brightest minds from all the Alliance species worked together, sharing ideas that had been kept secret for thousands of years. "The Council has been lying," Rachel announced to the Alliance leadership. "They've been holding back technology on purpose. They could have cured diseases, ended hunger, made life better for everyone. But they kept the knowledge to themselves, to stay in power." Her research teams had discovered amazing things: medicine that could heal any injury, computers that could think like living beings, ways to create food from nothing but energy and basic elements. All of this had been possible for centuries, but the Council had forbidden it. News of the Alliance victory at Crimson Nebula spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On worlds throughout Council space, people began to whisper about the Exiled, species who had fought back and won. The planet Kepler 442b was the first to act. Their people had been slaves to the Council for 200 years, forced to mine rare metals while their children starved. When they heard about the Alliance, they declared independence. The Council response was swift and brutal. War fleets surrounded the planet and began bombing cities. Millions of innocent people were about to die. Admiral Roy Phillips didn't wait for orders. He took his rescue fleet and jumped directly to Kepler 442b. Council ships were caught completely off guard. They expected to fight helpless miners, not professional Alliance warriors. The evacuation ships appeared in the middle of the battle. While Alliance fighters kept the Council busy, transport ships landed on the planet and began loading refugees. 3 million people were rescued in just 6 hours. Director Paula Wright ran the Alliance Intelligence Service. Her spies had been working throughout Council space for years, and now they brought her incredible news. "We've found the real reason for our exile," Paula told President Turner. "The Council has been deliberately keeping the galaxy weak and divided. Any species that gets too smart or too strong gets thrown out or destroyed. They've been doing this for thousands of years." Secret Council documents showed the truth. Humanity wasn't exiled for breaking laws. They were exiled for being too dangerous to the Council's power. The same was true for all the Alliance species. Each one had been removed because they represented a threat to the old order. "They fear us," Paula continued. "Not because we're violent or evil, but because we prove there's a better way to live. We show that people can be free and still work together. We show that different species can be friends instead of slaves and masters." President Turner looked out at the lights of New Washington. Ships from dozens of species flew peacefully through the sky. Children of different races played together in the parks. Scientists and artists and farmers and soldiers all worked side by side. "Then let's give them something real to fear," he said quietly. "It's time to stop hiding in the darkness. It's time to bring freedom to the galaxy." The Alliance had grown, strong in the shadows. They had built ships and cities and friendships. They had proven that exiles could thrive. Now it was time for the next step. The time had come to go home and free their galaxy from the Council's lies. 50 years had passed since the first humans crossed into the dark space beyond Council control. The Free People's Alliance had grown into something much bigger. Now it was called the Terran Stellar Empire, and it ruled over 400 worlds. Emperor Jason Miller stood in his office on New Terra and looked at reports from across the galaxy. He was not like the old kings of Earth. The people had chosen him to lead for 10 years, and they could choose someone else when his time was done. This was the human way, and it had spread to all the Empire worlds. The Empire was not built on fear like the Council. Every world that joined did so because they wanted to. Former slaves became free citizens. Refugees became inventors and teachers. Even conquered planets became willing partners when they saw how much better life could be. Grand Admiral Linda Parker commanded the Imperial Navy from her flagship, Defiant Spirit. The ship was as big as a city and carried weapons that could destroy planets. But Linda knew the Empire's real strength was not in its weapons. It was in the idea that all people deserved to be free. Her fleet had grown beyond imagination. 50,000 ships of every size and type. Fast scout ships that could hide in asteroid fields. Massive carrier ships that could bring whole armies to distant worlds. And the new dreadnoughts that used pure energy weapons powered by quantum crystals. "Admiral, we have a message from the Christek hegemony," reported her communications officer. "They want to join the Empire." Linda smiled. The Christek were silicon-based beings who looked like living rocks. For centuries, they had served the Council because they could not survive on worlds with carbon-based life. Now Dr. Martin Kelly had invented technology that let them live anywhere. "Tell them they are welcome," Linda said. "Send transport ships to help move their people to their new worlds." Chief Administrator Kevin Walsh managed all the Empire territories. It was a huge job, but the Empire had learned to work in ways the Council never could. Each world kept its own culture and laws, but all followed the basic rules of freedom and fairness. The Empire offered something the Council never had: hope. Any species could join and be treated as equals. Any person could rise as high as their talents would take them. Any world could become as rich and beautiful as they were willing to work for. More Council worlds were leaving every day. The aquatic depth dwellers had been loyal to the Council for 2,000 years. But when the Council tried to take their children away to serve as soldiers, they called for help. Commander Steve Ross led the defense of their water world. His ships arrived just as Council forces began their attack. The battle was fierce, but the Empire ships were faster and smarter. They saved the Depth Dweller cities and welcomed another species into freedom, supreme. Scientist Dr. Carol Adams stood before the Empire Senate with exciting news. Her team had finished Project Genesis, a system that could turn any dead world into a paradise in just 5 years. "We can create gardens in space," she announced. "We can make water flow on desert planets. We can bring life to worlds that have been dead for millions of years." The Empire began offering this technology to any species that would leave Council space. Entire populations packed up their lives and moved to new worlds where they could be free. The Council could not stop the flood of people leaving their territory, but the Council had not given up. They still had their most terrible weapon. The planet killer, Divine Judgment, was the size of a moon and could turn entire worlds into space dust with one shot. For thousands of years, just the threat of this weapon had kept the galaxy in line. Now the Council decided to use it. Their target was New Terra, the heart of the Empire. Fleet Admiral Greg Turner was ready for them. His defense fleet surrounded the Empire capital, but everyone knew it might not be enough. The planet killer had never been defeated. The battle began when Council forces dropped out of hyperspace around New Terra. Thousands of ships led by the massive planet killer. The weapon began charging its main gun, preparing to destroy the world where humans had built their new home. "All ships, attack Formation 7, Admiral Turner commanded. "Hit them with everything we have." The Empire fleet struck like lightning. Fast attack ships swarmed around the planet killer while heavy cruisers fought the Council escort fleet. But the ancient weapon kept charging its main gun. Then something unexpected happened. A group of young Alliance engineers had been studying captured Council technology. They had found a weakness in the planet killer's design. The massive weapon needed several minutes to charge, and during that time, its shields were weak in one small spot. "Target the power coupling on the dorsal section," called out Lieutenant Amy Foster over the battle communications. "If we can hit it with a quantum torpedo, the whole system will overload." Captain Brian Foster took his small ship, Starfire, on a suicide run straight at the planet killer. Council fighters chased him as he dove toward the tiny target. Laser fire filled the space around his ship. "I've got a lock," Brian called out, firing torpedo. The quantum torpedo struck perfectly. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the planet killer began to shake as its own power turned against it. Explosions ran along its hull like fire. The great weapon that had threatened the galaxy for so long tore itself apart. The Council fleet tried to retreat, but it was too late. Empire ships surrounded them. 3 Council High Admirals were captured alive, along with hundreds of ships and thousands of prisoners. Intelligence Director Sharon Lee brought the most important news to Emperor Miller. Her spies had found secret Council files on the captured ships. They were planning to kill every human in the galaxy, Sharon reported. Not just exile us, but complete extinction. They have detailed plans to hunt down every human settlement. and destroy them all. The Emperor felt anger rise in his chest, but also determination. The Council had shown their true face. They were not trying to keep peace. They were trying to stay in power by destroying anyone who threatened them. Emperor Miller addressed the Empire Senate the next day. Representatives from hundreds of worlds listened as he spoke about the future. For 50 years we have been building something better than what came before, he said. We have shown that different species can live together in peace. We have proven that freedom makes people stronger, not weaker. He paused and looked at the faces before him. Humans and aliens, former enemies now friends, all united by the idea that every person deserved to be free. The Council fears us because we are everything they are not. We are hope where they bring despair. We are freedom where they bring slavery. We are the future, and they are the past. The Emperor's voice grew stronger. The time for defense is over. We will no longer hide in the darkness while the galaxy suffers under Council rule. It is time to bring freedom to every world. It is time to liberate the galaxy. The Senate erupted in cheers. Representatives from 400 worlds stood and shouted their support. The Terran Stellar Empire was ready for its greatest challenge. The war for galactic freedom was about to begin. 75 years had passed since humans first left Council space in exile. Now the Terran Stellar Empire controlled half the galaxy. Supreme Commander Alex Thompson stood on the bridge of his flagship and prepared for the final battle against the Council. The target was Zentara Prime, the ancient capital world where the Council had ruled for thousands of years. It was the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy, surrounded by rings of weapon platforms and protected by the largest fleet the Council had ever assembled. But the Empire was ready. Admiral Katie Johnson commanded the Imperial Armada of Liberation. 200,000 ships from hundreds of different species filled the space around Zentara Prime. Each ship carried the hopes of people who had been slaves for too long. All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Johnson, she broadcast to the massive armada. Today we end thousands of years of tyranny. Today we set the galaxy free. The Council Defense Fleet was impressive. Ancient ships built with old technology but carrying powerful weapons. They had been the masters of space for so long that they could not imagine losing, but they were about to learn what happened when free people fought together. The battle began when Empire scout ships appeared throughout the Zentara system. They came from everywhere at once, using quantum jump technology that the Council still did not understand. The defenders tried to form battle lines, but the Empire forces were already behind them. Commodore Frank Lewis led the first wave of liberation fleets. While the main battle raged around Zentara Prime, his ships jumped to dozens of other Council worlds. On each planet, they found people ready to rise up against their oppressors. The Council had always ruled through fear, but fear could not stop an idea whose time had come. As soon as Empire ships appeared in orbit, the people below began to fight for their freedom. On the industrial world of Mechanica, robot workers turned against their Council masters. On the farm world of Verdania, farmers refused to send food to Council cities. On the mining world of Crystallis, workers sealed the mines and demanded their freedom. Back at Zentara Prime, the space battle raged for hours. Council ships were strong, but they fought alone. Each ship tried to win by itself. The Empire ships worked together like parts of one giant mind. When one was in trouble, others came to help. When they found a weakness, they all struck at once. Colonel Mary Davis led the ground assault on Zentara Prime itself. Her soldiers came from 20 different species, but they fought as one. They landed on the planet while the space battle still raged overhead. The Council Citadel was an ancient fortress that had never been conquered. Its walls were made of metal stronger than steel, and its defenses had held back armies for centuries. But no one had ever attacked it with soldiers who believed in freedom. Mary's troops moved through the city like water flowing around rocks. Council defenders were brave, but they were fighting for rulers who cared nothing about them. The Empire soldiers were fighting for the right of all people to be free. "Breach the main gate," Mary ordered her assault team. Time to meet the High Council face to face. The final defense of the Citadel was fierce but brief. Council guards had been told for so long that they were the greatest warriors in the galaxy. They discovered that free soldiers fighting for their beliefs were much stronger than hired guards fighting for pay. When the doors of the council chamber finally opened, Mary Davis walked in to find the alien rulers who had controlled the galaxy. For thousands of years, they looked smaller than she had expected. Without their fleets and armies, they were just frightened old beings who had forgotten what it meant to fight for something they believed in. "You are under arrest for crimes against galactic civilization," Mary announced to the council members. "You will be given a fair trial, which is more than you ever gave your victims." Dr. Eric Miller, grandson of the old emperor, stood before the gathered representatives of 10,000 worlds. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. The galaxy needed a new government, one that would serve the people instead of ruling them. "We gather not as conquerors, but as liberators," Eric said to the vast assembly. "We have won the right to be free. Now we must prove we deserve it." The Galactic Federation of Free Worlds was different from anything the galaxy had ever seen. Every species had a voice. Every world could choose its own path. The Federation existed to protect freedom, not to control it. That President Lavra Anderson became the first elected leader of the new Federation. She had been a refugee child when humans were first exiled. Now she led a government that spanned the entire galaxy. 75 years ago, the council thought they were getting rid of a problem. She said in her first speech as president, "They thought sending humans into exile would make us disappear. They were wrong." She looked out at representatives from thousands of worlds, all free now to choose their own destiny. "We were exiled for our potential, and we returned to fulfill it. Not as conquerors, but as liberators. Not as rulers, but as partners. The galaxy is free because freedom cannot be exiled." Admiral Chris Taylor, great-grandson of Dr. Susan Taylor, who had first made dead worlds livable, stood on the observation deck of his exploration ship. His fleet was heading beyond the edge of the galaxy, searching for new worlds and new friends among the stars. Humanity's exile had taught them that there were always new frontiers to explore, always new challenges to face, always new friends to discover. In the vast darkness of space, the ship's sensors picked up signals from another galaxy far away. Other civilizations were out there, waiting to be found. Some might be friends. Some might be enemies. But whatever they found, humanity and their allies would face it together. Back on New Terra, now the capital of the free galaxy, a monument was built to remember all those who had suffered under council rule. The words carved in its base were simple but powerful. "Exiled for our potential, we return to fulfill it. Not as conquerors, but as liberators. Not as rulers, but as partners. The galaxy is free because freedom cannot be exiled." Children from 100 different species played in the gardens around the monument. They spoke different languages and looked different from each other, but they all understood the same thing. They were free. The great exile was over. The age of freedom had begun. And somewhere out in the darkness between the stars, new adventures waited for those brave enough to seek them.